Good afternoon. I'm the Reverend Gene Dyslewski. I'm a UCC minister. I'm also a community minister here at First Unitarian. And I'm here to welcome you, and I'm privileged to welcome you to our rally to Stand Up for Love. Yeah! And we do this for an important reason. We believe very strongly in the sanctity of marriage. We believe very strongly in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And very importantly, we value all families. The accent is all. Now I'm pleased to welcome to Providence Reverend Geoffrey Black, the General Minister of the United Church of Christ, and Reverend Peter Morales, the President of the Unitarian Universalist Association. These are two denominations with historic relationships, historic ties, and historic commitment to human rights and civil rights. As a matter of fact, Dr. Black preached at Beneficent, Reverend Morales preached here. Both of these pulpits over the many years were sermons related to human rights and civil rights. 200 and 250 years ago, the preaching was about abolition. 100 to 150 years ago, the preaching was about women's rights to vote. And we're sitting in pews that were warmed by the women suffragettes and the women and men who were involved in that struggle. 50 years ago, the preaching was about civil rights, and the legacy continues. So we both have a relationship connected to our values and our understanding of worth and dignity of all people. But, enough for me. Since we're here to stand for love, what I'm going to do is ask you to do that. We're going to stand, and we're going to sing a song, also called Stand, and I'm going to try and lead it. Yeah. We'll all sing the chorus, and we'll do the chorus twice to begin with, okay? It's easy, you'll get it. It's a folk song. You can ad-lib as much as you want. I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? And will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me? Everybody, I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? And will be the love that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand with me? When injustice raises up its fist and fights to stop us in our tracks, we will rise and as one resist. No fear nor sorrow can turn us back. I will stand with you, will you stand with me, and will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace, will you stand with me? When pain and hatred churn up angry noise and fight to drown out our freedom song, we will rise in one joyful voice, loud and clear and ever strong. I will stand with you, will you stand with me, and will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. lost and hungry and so alone, we will reach as we have reached before, for there's no stranger in this our home. I will stand with you, stand with me, and when the change that we hope to see, in the name of love, in the name of peace, stand with me. One more time. Stand with you, stand with me, and when the change that we hope to see, in the name of love, in the name of peace, stand with me. Okay, enough standing. Actually, in our midst, there are a number of heroes who have been engaged in the effort to gain GLBT civil rights and in the effort to gain marriage equality, which we're still working on. And I thank all the folks who have stepped forward to do that. Now I'd like to introduce a religious leader who has worked tirelessly in many ways for GLBT civil rights. This year, she led the Rhode Island Council of Churches to a position of support for marriage equality, and it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Betsy Garland.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. And Jean said that I led the Council of Churches. Well, I didn't lead it by myself. With me is the Reverend Dr. Donald Anderson, who's the Executive Minister of the Council of Churches. And I refer to Don as the face of the Council in the world. I'm also standing in front of the Reverend Beverly Edwards, who is a member of the Governing Board of the Council of Churches, and Bill Zelazny, who's a member of the Governing Board. And I'm wondering if all those of you who are clergy or religious leaders would stand. Speaking as leaders in the Rhode Island State Council of Churches, we welcome people of all religious persuasions to this rally this afternoon. The Council of Churches adopted a resolution back in the end of January. It was a long time coming. Lots of conversations, lots of heart-to-heart talks, and it was not a unanimous resolution that was adopted. But we attempted to be responsive and responsible to people from all different persuasions and people who perhaps would not have adopted this stand if it had been their choice. And I'm going to read it to you because it's short, and then ask Don to just say a few words. Whereas the General Assembly in Rhode Island has an opportunity to make marriage equality unanimous in New England and to become a beacon for the balance of the country, and whereas the faith community represented by the Rhode Island State Council of Churches has a long track record of being a voice of conscience and justice for civil rights, and has long embraced the Rhode Island heritage of separation of church and state, be it resolved that the Rhode Island State Council of Churches, seeing compelling issues of social justice involved, calls on the governor, members of the General Assembly, and citizens of all faith traditions to join with us in calling for the passage of a marriage equality bill that affords all the rights and responsibilities of heterosexual couples to same-gender couples, while at the same time protecting the rights of all clergy to follow their consciences and convictions in the exercise of their pastoral responsibilities. And be it further resolved, the Council calls on all people of faith to examine, discern, and share views related to the complex and difficult gender issues related to marriage. We call for mutual respect and guidance that seeks the good of all, even with our different views on this matter. As we live together with disagreement, we encourage traditions, congregations, and indeed all persons of faith to accompany each other in study, prayer, discernment, pastoral care, and mutual respect. That resolution passed with a vote of 15 yes, 5 no, and 1 abstention, and we moved forward. And now we're working for marriage equality.
Betsy puts aside any degree of her leadership. That just doesn't work. She's an amazing leader, and we are so thankful to have her gifted leadership. To just give you an idea of how significant that resolution was, I've checked over the last couple of months. To my knowledge, we are the only state council of churches in the United States to have endorsed marriage equality. Seated in the congregation today is Rabbi Peter Stein, the former president of the Rhode Island Board of Rabbis. And shortly after we passed our statement, the Rhode Island Board of Rabbis unanimously passed a statement that says essentially the exact same thing in support of marriage equality. We are so grateful for our rabbinic brothers and sisters who are standing with us. Tell you one brief story and then we're done about why we did this. Over the last few years, it's been my privilege to work with one of our state legislators, Frank Ferry. Many of you know. Frank, are you here today? I'm going to tell a story about you. I was with Frank just a few days ago. We were in a meeting, and Frank was sharing a little bit, and he said, you know, several years ago, I felt like I'd been abandoned by my God. But he had gotten to know in the course of some of his work some clergy and some faith leaders who helped him understand that that wasn't true. And the major reason I was anxious for us to pass this statement on marriage equality is to let the world know that God has not forgotten anyone. Thanks be to God.
So you stand up and it's like, something else going on. Well, in a sense, neither am I. Somehow it says soloist in the program, but this is about everybody coming together to do something together. And so a lot of you know this. We sang it a couple times this morning. And if you don't know it, you can start turning to in the blue. If you have near you one of the teal-colored hymnals. If you don't have one near you, you can lean over somebody's shoulder, or even if not, by the time we get to the end, you will know the chorus and you can join in. Yeah, basically, I'll try to belt it out so that you can hear it. But really, everybody just sing along. 10:14. Sorry, 10:14.
We're gonna sing.
ministers, they all want to get to them.
Okay. Actually, what I wanted to say is, on the marriage equality thing, we're still working on it. And if you're wondering, well, what can I do? If you're wondering, what can I do? Well, there are folks from Rhode Islanders United who are here, and can they wave? I think they're in the back. And these are folks who are tirelessly working, and you know what? If you want to do something, they will sign you up. They will help you do it. So see them at some point. And now it's your turn.
Well, good friends, we have come a long way, but I am not Reverend Richard Taylor. I am actually Reverend Beverly Edwards, and I am the interim conference minister of the Rhode Island Conference of the United Church of Christ. Reverend Richard Taylor has been a tireless advocate for gay and lesbian rights for a long, long time. But he was not feeling well today. So it is my privilege to introduce to you the president of the United Church of Christ, our denomination, Reverend Geoffrey Black. Reverend Black went to the University of Pennsylvania, and he and I, talk about a long time ago, in the 70s, Geoffrey Black and I were both chaplains at Brown University. I was the woman chaplain and he was the black chaplain. We have in fact come a long way. Our denomination, United Church of Christ, has been a long and ardent supporter of marriage equality. And in Rhode Island, our Rhode Island Conference has a position of supporting marriage equality in all its dimensions. And it is such a privilege today to have the president of our denomination here with us to support us and to speak for the wider church, which is taking this strong stand along with all of us. Reverend.
Thank you, Beverly, and you reminded me of the years that we've been friends and colleagues, and we still have a lot to do yet, right? It is just a delight to be here with you today and to see all of you out there. The last time Peter Morales and I were together for a gathering like this, we were out in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, doing a demonstration that the UU Church was sponsoring and had gathered as a part of their assembly, which brought people together from all over the country to go down to the Maricopa County Jail and protest around immigration. And there were waves and waves of yellow shirts. And the only thing that I'm thinking about today when I remember that moment was, this is a beautiful, bright spring day. And all of us are here. We should probably be out in the streets like we were in Arizona doing a demonstration letting the world know what we stand for and what we're about. And that's really what this moment is. So, you know, urge to march, I won't get in the way. Certainly, this is a moment, and a special moment, where I'm told that Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island, is on the verge, hopefully, of making a change. And making a change that will join the choir of change that is happening throughout this nation on this issue of marriage equality. As we look back, though, we realize that this is a moment that is a part of a historic continuum that was mentioned earlier, a continuum of expanding rights for all people in this country. We remember that it began way, way back when, around slavery, but it continues into this moment when we talk about expanding the rights for gay and lesbian, transgender, bisexual people who have been invisible in the struggle up until recent decades. And now we have this opportunity to do something significant in their lives, and that is to allow them to have equal protection under the law when it comes to marriage. Certainly, the United Church of Christ has been about this for a while as well. It's a part of that continuum, and certainly when we got to the year 2005, after many, many years of affirming our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters in terms of leadership in the church, that goes back to about 1972 when we ordained our first openly gay minister. Certainly since then, we have been on the trajectory to bring about this change. And in 2005, we passed the General Synod resolution affirming equality in marriage for all people. So this has been an issue that has been right in the forefront of our denominational life ever since then. And as many people know, when you take a stand like this, you do pay a price. But it's okay. It's a price that's worth paying if we can see this kind of equality become a reality. We stand with the thousands of same-sex couples across the United Church of Christ and other denominations in seeking their freedom to marry the person that they love. And we certainly have honored that in our liturgical life by officiating, our clergy officiating at covenantal vow ceremonies for years now. I want to say a few more things about this. Just a few days ago, I was in Washington at the offices of our Justice Witness Ministry, which is located in the United Methodist Building. And that building sits directly across the street from the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is debating about this, but right across the top of the building, it says, equal justice under the law. And I think that's something that people need to make note of, that what we are urging, what we are about, is really an American ideal. It's something that is ingrained in this society, and it should be for everybody. So this press for equality is about just that. It's about equal justice under the law. That is what we strive for here, equal protection, opportunity for all citizens to have the right to marry if they choose to. This is a matter of civil rights that must be achieved for the health of the whole nation, not just a few. And it's about love and commitment. It's about love and commitment, not gender. It's about love and commitment. And for me, when I think about this personally, I've been married for a long time, sometimes longer than I can imagine. Matter of fact, my wife and I joke about the fact that I travel so much in this job that even though we've been married, going on 37 years, we've been together about 20 years. That kind of thing. But the thing that strikes me about this is that when we change this law and have equal marriage for everybody, it's only going to make our marriage better. It's going to feel like all of our sisters and brothers have the same opportunity. So when you hear people talking about how this change will diminish marriage, that's only in their imagination. That's only in their dreams. That's only in their thoughts that they have churned up or someone has fed them. But the reality is this. If we are all able to marry, it's better for all of us, not just some. I live in the state of Ohio. And even when I said to a friend, a colleague that I met today, that I live in Ohio, and yeah, the place is a backwater. You know, I mean, let's be honest about it. It's not going to get to this point where you are today for a long, long time. It might take the Supreme Court to make a change there. And the person I spoke to, he was from Ohio, but he got it. He understands the reality. This is not going to happen in some places, even though my next door neighbors, the two women who live next door to me, a same gender couple who just had a baby in January, who obviously love each other and love that baby, are not able to be legally married in Ohio. You might be about making a change that will change the laws of the nation so that people in places like Ohio will have that right, will have that equality. This is important for many people beyond the borders of Rhode Island. In my office in Cleveland, I keep a book on the coffee table titled Love Makes a Family. Some of you may have seen it. It's a beautiful book of black and white photographs. It captures the love shared by a range of families, families of GLBT couples. It includes their children, their parents, their aunts, their uncles, their nieces, nephews, and some of their friends. And it makes clear that the love these people share is real. Photographs can be that way. They can give you some information that you might not get through words. Those pictures speak to the heart. They tell you about the love these people share. It challenges, that book challenges the notion that they are any different from anybody else, from any others. And it calls on us, that very book calls on us to advocate for them for equality in civil society. For those who desire to have legal marriage, they should have that right. And remember, folks, it's not about gender. It's not about morality. It is about love and commitment, compassion, justice, and equality for all. Thank you.
Well, I can't top that, so I'm glad I'm not going next. I'm just doing an introduction, and I want to introduce a colleague who has actually indeed worked tirelessly and has been a religious leader on the statewide. And also, in his congregation, I would like to introduce the senior minister here at First Unitarian, the Reverend James Ishmael Ford.
I'm here to introduce someone. So, the Reverend Peter Morales is the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, has been so since 2009. Peter was born in San Antonio. His mother was an American of Mexican descent. His father, an immigrant from Spain. He attended the University of the Pacific, later the University of Kansas. He has gone on to have a distinguished career in journalism and publishing. He then felt that strange, mysterious movement of insanity and entered seminary. The hour, as we discussed earlier at the worship service, he enjoys the distinction of being the first president of the Unitarian Universalist Association to not attend Harvard. A graduate of Stark King School of the Ministry in Berkeley. He is a true son of the West. Peter is, as we in the Unitarian Universalist Association know, a tireless worker for justice. He and I stood together in Phoenix a few years ago. He has been involved in almost any issue where human beings have been denied their fair and just rights. He has spoken fiercely on behalf of love and justice, and he did so just an hour ago. We expect to hear him today calling for marriage equality in our state, and to remind us as the conscience of this country that work must be done to bring all of us to that point of genuine equity and justice. Dr. Morales.
Thank you for inviting me to be with you today. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to get to share a speaking engagement with Geoffrey Black. Fond memories of being with him in Phoenix. I'm excited to see so many UUs here with their yellow standing on the side of love shirts. Over the years, I've managed to pick up a few degrees and an award here and there, and an honorary doctorate. But the one distinction of which I am most proud was when I was in Phoenix demonstrating with others against the horrific treatment of migrants by Sheriff Joe Arpaio and the terrible law in Arizona. I was referred to as the head of the yellow shirts. That is the distinction of which I am most proud of my life. Brilliant standing on the side of love. Sure. The Rhode Island House has already passed a bill that grant marriage to same-sex couples. And your governor, Lincoln Chafee, says he'll sign it. So now the task is to call upon the Senate of this state to make marriage equality the law of Rhode Island. That close. I invite you to imagine what that will be when every Rhode Islander has the same right to marry as every other Rhode Islander. And it will make Rhode Island the final state in New England to grant equal marriage rights to same-sex couples. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called by our faith, as my brethren here in the United Church of Christ and others by their faith, to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people. That is not a very complicated theological concept. It's pretty straightforward. Everybody matters. Everyone is equal. I'm proud to say that our association began celebrating religious unions of same-sex couples in 1979 and formally affirmed that practice in 1984. At our General Assembly in 1996, Unitarian Universalists voted to support the right of same-sex couples to join together in civil marriages. In 2003, when this was before the legislature and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, our headquarters building is right next door, and we had an enormous banner. There's so many photographs of it, affirming our stand for same-sex marriage. And now more and more Americans realize that the freedom to marry strengthens families, it protects children, it ensures basic rights for people. So now the time has come to make that last push. Let your state senators know. Talk to members of your congregation, your families, your neighbors, your friends. Urge them to contact their senators. And be sure to let the folks in the back who have sign up. Don't leave without doing that. The next few days, the next week or two, are going to be crucial to push this measure over the top. Together, we are now a powerful voice for justice and compassion. We're making steady progress. 9 states and the District of Columbia allow same-sex couples to marry. We're on the edge of another victory. Tomorrow, we'll continue the work in the rest of this land. Because we, Unitarian Universalists, and so many other people are not going to rest until marriage equality is the law of the land in the United States. Thank you.
that we would be able to make this a conversation, a little bit conversational. It looks like there's a lot of conversation to be had, but I just would like to invite, if anybody has any questions to ask, I won't answer them. Ann.
I know both denominations have many congregations throughout the New England states. My question is to Reverend Morales. How has marriage equality impacted Unitarian Universalist congregations in Massachusetts and other states?
How has marriage equality impacted Unitarian congregations in Massachusetts and in other states that enjoy marriage equality? And I'm sure that was your question.
Sure. Actually, we like to think that we've impacted marriage equality the other way around. The truth is, if anything, it has strengthened our movement, not just in Massachusetts, but all over the nation, because I'm proud that we've become known as a religious movement that is accepting of all people, LGBT people, and we have long been affirming of them in not only as members, but in our clergy. So we're living proof that nothing but good happens from treating people with respect and with dignity and being accepting of people.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Here,
Bob, Reverend Black and Reverend Morales, you two have the advantage of traveling around the country. What one congregation in your own experience was uniquely effective in getting those votes the way we want to get the votes here in Rhode Island?
That's a real tough one, and the reason it's tough is that if the UCC General Minister and President cites one congregation, he's in trouble with the other 4,000. I don't want to get too specific. I would say that from region to region, there are shining stars that do seem to be in the lead of this. I can think of even in Ohio, we have congregations that stand out. Pilgrim Congregational in Cleveland, Ohio, for instance, is a church that really was the church that gave a lot of energy to our Still Speaking campaign, and a part of that was about being inclusive. So when I think about the inclusiveness and the affirmation of marriage, I think of that as one of the congregations, one of the many that have taken the lead on this issue.
Pretty much what he said. One of the things that's happened with all over the country, not only in states that have marriage equality, but those that still deny it, like in California. But in every state that's had a vote, there are 4 states that affirmed it this last election cycle. Unitarian Universalists, as members of United Church of Christ, have been at the forefront, out in the streets, working in the campaign to make that happen.
Okay, well, before taking another question, I actually want to call on somebody to make a statement. You know, we do have a legacy here, and there are religious leaders who have worked for many years in trying to accomplish civil and human rights for GLBT community. And Betsy.
I wanted to recognize the Reverend Ray Bradley, who has been a minister in the United Church of Christ for more than 50 years. Ray, would you stand? When Ray was a pastor at the Riverside Congregational Church, he initiated a lot of conversation around gay rights and gay marriage and recognition for people who are LGBT. And then he came to some of us. I was a beneficent at the time, and he came and talked to me and Richard Taylor, and we had meetings, and Pat and Gwen will remember those meetings at Beneficent. And out of those meetings came Rhode Island for Marriage Equality. And Ray has always been at the forefront of any clergy conversation, clergy for marriage equality, and helped to move this on. And he sits here humbly, and I thought it was time to remember one of the initiators of the movement, one of our fathers in the faith who led us to this point. So thank you.
Somebody ought to do something about it. And a few miles down the road, you're somebody. And then when I got into it, a lot of people kept telling me, well, we're getting too old for that. And I said, that's right, but if you lay down and put dirt on it, if we lay down in this effort, they'll put something lesser than dirt. So we deserve this. Why? Because we are created in the image of God. God made us, and God does not make junk. Thank you.
John?
What impact will marriage equality have on children?
Impact on children.
Well, I told you a story about a couple next door to me. And it's really a very touching story because I've actually watched how that family has grown and coalesced with the birth of this child and his two mothers now together. And the in-laws, the grandparents, everybody, you know, they're always in and out of the house. So I suspect, just from that one little example, that the impact has been as positive as it is on any child that has a loving, extended family and two parents. I think that I've been in public with couples, other same gender loving couples with their children, and you can tell when parents love their children and are caring about their children and so forth and so on. I can't see any negative impact on, and again, I'll go back to that book that I had. You see all these families in this book, a thick book full of photographs of loving families. You gotta say, the impact is positive.
Every time there's an effort to limit rights, there are always these dire predictions of what is going to happen. On marriage equality, it would be the end of marriage as we know it. Well, divorce rates are higher in the Bible Belt than they are in Massachusetts. And this is not any longer. There's been marriage equality and same-sex couples for long enough. This is not a theoretical issue anymore. The science is out there. There are, just as there are heterosexual parents that are good and not so good, there are same-sex parents that are some better than others, but on average, they do just fine. There is nothing to worry about. This is truly a fear not situation.
What makes marriage equality particularly important to our faith traditions?
How is this important to our faith traditions?
Well, it's important, as Joffrey said, for the same reason that anti-slavery was important, that civil rights was important, that women's suffrage was important, for the same reasons that treating immigrants humanely and with dignity is important. That if it's very simple, if everybody matters, then everybody matters. And we don't treat a certain class of people differently and give them rights that are beneath the rights of everyone else. It's a very straightforward thing. So we, as a faith tradition, have long advocated equality and the inherent worth and dignity of our people. The implications of that go on and on and on. And it guides us in everything we do.
I'm going to run that.
I'm curious about what kind of participation any of these denominations that we're representing here today had in the recent Supreme Court hearings.
I know that we were a part of an amicus brief for the Supreme Court hearing last week, and of course we had tons of people there outside and to observe what happened. Washington is actually in the middle of what we call our Central Atlantic Conference, and the conference minister of the Central Atlantic Conference, John Deckenbach, has been, again, like many of his colleagues around the country, a staunch advocate in this cause. So he had spoken before the Maryland House and so forth and so on, and he was able to organize many, many people to be there at the Supreme Court. So inside with the brief and outside with the people, I know that we were present there.
Question, you both are going to be excellent representatives to answer my question. The Black and Latino religious communities, I think, are overwhelmingly against marriage equality. And I wonder what you think will take in this anti-God, anti-gospel world that they see as such a black and white issue and so clear to them that this is the wrong way to go forward. What do you think will bring them to change their hearts?
What I think will change the mind of those, in the first place, let me say that that's changing rapidly. It's changing rapidly throughout our nation. Attitudes are shifting, and they very much are shifting with age. I mean, younger people, what's amazing is, for my grown children, the idea of marriage equality was simply never a big deal. I mean, they have a hard time understanding what the big deal is. And that's true across our country. I think it will take what it's taken for other people. It'll take time, it'll take the experience, it'll take lowering the fear, and only really living with and knowing that you live with it, and that nothing awful happens in time, that the fear is lowered and acceptance grows. I've seen it happen across our country, and I'm even seeing, for example, on all kinds of issues, even the very evangelical Latino community has completely shifted its position around immigration, and they're shifting it on marriage equality as well.
Yeah, I would also add that it's very interesting. I was watching the reports on the Supreme Court last week when the hearing took place, and they interviewed people outside of the court and religious leaders outside of the court. And the anti-marriage equality voices were actually from two African-American religious leaders. I thought that was unfortunate because it misrepresents the reality of the black community. And I think what that does represent is a stereotype of the black community around equality, marriage equality. So I would be careful not to indulge that stereotype too much, because I know that there are leaders and people who embrace marriage equality in the African American community. But the voices that get airplay are mainly those that negate it. And I think that part of that is a strategy to divide. Okay, so I'll be very upfront with you about that. That's what I think is going on. I know that there are, and you'll notice that, I mean, anytime a conservative African American or African American rights organization, because the NAACP is actually not just a black organization, it's made up of people from all races, but the NAACP comes out for marriage equality. Now, when that happens, you know that something within the black community has changed. And when you see leaders like Al Sharpton, for instance, come out in favor of marriage equality, you begin to see that there's a change happening. So I would say that part of it is going to be leadership, people like Sharpton and the NAACP making their voices known about equality and the broad-based need of equality.
Okay, one more. Last question.
Could you repeat the question, please? Actually,
So what's it going to take to get marriage equality here at Rhode Island?
Well, you're here at the 11th hour, so now it takes political action and lean on your senator. That's not very complicated either. Call them up. These are political animals we're talking about. And so make sure you sign up with the folks in the back. Make sure that you and encourage people that you know to make your voices known. Encourage them to do the right thing. Encourage them to be courageous.
Now, I promised that I was going to stop it at some point, because I was told, you know, once you start conversation with this crowd, however, nobody is as enthusiastic a question to ask her than you.
So I would like the theological sages on the podium, any of them, to weigh in on this question, which is, how can we effectively respond to those people who choose to quote passages from Leviticus at us?
Far from theological sage or biblical scholar, but here's what I would suggest. That you actually get them to look through the book of Leviticus and then kind of reflect on their own lives. And the children that they love, especially the 13-year-olders who, and all of you who are parents know, when they hit 13, something else happens. And they become these other people. And they don't necessarily respect their elders the way Leviticus says they should. Matter of fact, it prescribes that they be stoned to death. Suggest that they think about that and whether Leviticus still holds water then. And then, take it from there. Okay? Amen.
I would like to add, too, that those same passages talk about stoning adulterers, and if every adulterer in conservative churches was stoned, it would probably make some spaces available in the parking lot. And you don't have to be a biblical scholar to recite everything that Jesus said about homosexuality. I just did.
Somebody told me once that when someone hurls a biblical quote at you, the best thing to do is to duck. Well, I'd like to end on an up note.
Yes,
We're going to sing, but in order to help us, I'd like to invite all the clergy to come forward and join us up here where we could sing together. And we are singing 121.
Hey, sweetheart, how are you?
Don't be shy, come on.